Yesterday, one of the stories that caught my eye was the arrest of people from the organization Republic. And today I've picked up a story from a person called Tom Brighton, who rang in LBC News. And he is a member of Republic, and he was demonstrating in Trafalgar Square yesterday in what he called a peaceful and democratic protest. And his job was to arrange the distribution of placards that had been kept in the van that was seized. And he says that these placards were stolen by the police. And he also vigorously denies a lot of the stories put out. He talks about locking in his garbage. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. He talks about disinformation, and he explains how his leader, Graham Smith, had been negotiating and discussing their protest with the Met for about 6 months before the actual coronation. He said that the sound system they were proposing to use was arrested, not confiscated, but arrested. So the sound system itself was arrested. Nevertheless, he explained that a lot of foreign journalists had come up to them, and they'd spoken to the foreign journalists, talking about how the coronation was, quote, a political event. The king is head of state. He holds a senior political office in the country. And their objection to the coronation is not an objection to the individual, but to the institution. And their objection, he said, is democratic. How can the mother of democracy have a leader who is not elected, who comes from a small family and undergoes an archaic medieval ceremony, quote, which is the equivalent of the investiture of the US president? And he reminded us that, of course, during the Trump investiture, there were vigorous protests, which were entirely legitimate. Why should there not be vigorous protests to the coronation? I must say, I don't share his Republican views at all, but I do share his concern about an aggressive police force and aggressive reaction to what should have been perfectly legitimate and acceptable protest. And he's quite right in saying that just as Steve Barclay's decision to take the RCN to court strengthened the case in the ballot for further strikes and for and sort of put steel into the back of the union and those people who supported striking, so too the aggression against the people who were opposing the coronation has put steel into the back of that movement. So a movement which may previously have been defined by its apathy, by people who were apathetic to the monarchy, has suddenly been given prominence and support by police thuggery and by arresting people, criminalizing people for something that was not a crime and that was indeed well known and documented by the police force. The police knew exactly where these people were, knew exactly what they were doing. Now, there was even a report in The Guardian that the one excuse for the police searching the van was because because the people had been drinking or had been collecting alcohol. And, that again, it is an extraordinary piece of tittle-tattle and not very secure. These are not secure reasons for arresting somebody. Getting somebody off the street so they don't disturb the television footage, well, it didn't work with Prince Harry, did it? Prince Harry had his own moment on the television screening of the coronation, and he was charming. So why not take the same approach to the Republican demonstrators and so on? We need to be more wholesome in the way that we manage dissent. A truly free society is a society that is that encourages people to have these debates rather than becoming aggressive and cancelling each other. And again, the sloganizing that sometimes appears under some of the posts is astonishing. I think it's probably more astonishing than some of the trolling. But by all means, I'd be very interested to know what you think about this. I think it's got very little to do with whether or not you sympathise or don't sympathise with the Republican movement. It's to do with the activity of the police. And a draconian police force is the sort of thing we should see or we do see in Russia. These people who run around the place looking like cadets from a space movie. It's not the sort of thing we should see in the UK.